A closure is an inner function together with the variables it captures from the scope around it. That definition is short, incorrect, and almost useless on its own because the interesting questions are underneath it. What exactly gets captured? A value or a variable? Where does the interpreter keep it? How long does it stay alive? What happens when you try to change it? And why does the version built inside a loop return the wrong answer every single time? That's what this video is about, and it ends by showing that a decorator written with nested functions is nothing but a closure over the function it wraps. When Python reads a name, it searches for scopes in a fixed order. Local first, meaning names assigned inside the current function. Then enclosing, meaning the locals of any function this one is nested inside. Then global, meaning module level. Then built-in. The first match wins and the search stops. Two details matter later. The search happens when the line runs, not when the function is defined. So a name can be defined after the function that uses it. And the enclosing step is the one that makes closures possible, because it lets an inner function see an outer function's locals. The rule that trips people up: Python decides at compile time whether a name is local to a function, and the deciding factor is whether the function assigns to it anywhere in its body. Because count is assigned on the second line, it is local for the whole function, including the print above the assignment. So the read fails before the assignment ever happens. The error is not saying the global is missing. It is saying you have a local that has not been given a value yet. It should recognize this one on site because the same rule governs closures that try to update what they captured. Two keywords override that decision. Global says the name belongs to module scope, so assignment writes there. Non-local says the name belongs to the nearest enclosing function, so assignment writes to that outer local. Non-local is the one that matters here because it is what lets a closure not merely read the captured variable, but change it. Without it, any assignment inside the inner function creates a fresh local and the outer variable never moves. Now the machinery, because you can see all of it from inside the language. A standard example: make tag takes a name, defines wrap, which uses that name, and returns wrap without calling it. By the time you call bold, make tag has returned and its frame is gone. Normally that would mean its locals are gone with it, but the returned function still produces the right tag, so the value survived somehow. The question is where it lives. The compiler notices that wrap reads a name it never assigns. That name is called a free variable. Instead of storing it as an ordinary local in the outer frame, Python puts it in a cell, which is a small container object, and it gives the inner function a reference to that same cell. When the outer frame is discarded, the cell survives because the inner function still points at it. That single design choice explains everything that follows. The inner function does not hold a copy of the value. It holds a reference to a container that the outer scope also had, and whatever is in that container at call time is what the inner function sees. Both halves are readable at runtime. The code object lists the free variable names in co-free vars. The function object holds the matching cells in the closure attribute in the same order, and each cell exposes its contents. If closure is none, the function captured nothing and is not a closure at all, just a nested function. This is a useful debugging check when a decorated function is behaving as though it captured the wrong thing. Every call to the outer function creates a new frame, which means a new cell, which means a new independent closure. Bold and italic share code but not state. That is why a factory function is a reliable way to produce configured functions. And it's also the basis of one of the two fixes for the loop problem later on. So far, the closure only reads what it captured. Writing takes one more step. With non-local, the inner function can rebind the captured name, and the new value stays in the cell for the next call. That gives you a counter with no global and no class. Remove the non-local line, and you get the unbounded local error from earlier, because the augmented assignment reads before it writes, and Python has already decided count is local to increment. The pattern is exactly how a decorator count calls, tracks a retry attempt, or remembers whether one-time setup has already run. It's worth being precise here. Non-local is required for rebinding, not for mutation. Appending to a captured list changes the object the name already points at, so there is no assignment and no new local. That's why some closures work without non-local and others fail without it, which looks inconsistent until you notice that the failing ones all contain an assignment to the captured name. If you're ever unsure, ask whether the line assigns to the name or calls a method on the object it holds. So compare the three options. A closure gives you one independent copy per factory call and reads well when there's a single behavior. A class gives you the same isolation, plus ordinary attributes you can read in a debugger, and several related methods if you need them. A module gives you one shared copy for the whole program, which is fine for something genuinely global, and painful in test because it has to be reset by hand. The rough rule is that one function and a little state suits a closure, and several related operations suit a class. Now, the failure that most everyone hits at least once: 3 functions are built, 1 per iteration, and every one of them reports 3. Nothing is broken. Each function captured the variable in, and there's only one in that scope, sitting in one cell that all 3 share. The loop finished before any of them ran, so the cell holds the last value. The functions are behaving exactly as the earlier explanation predicts. This is called late binding, and it is the practical consequence of capturing a variable rather than a value. The first fix uses default arguments. Defaults are evaluated once, at definition, and stored on the function object, so each function gets the current value rather than a shared cell. It is compact, and it is the version you'll see most often in older code. The cost is that it adds a parameter to the public signature, which a caller could accidentally supply, and it reads as a trick to anyone who hasn't seen it before. The second fix calls a factory. Each call creates a fresh frame with its own cell, so each returned function captures its own value. It costs 3 extra lines, and it needs no explanation to a reader, which usually makes it the better choice. It is also worth recognizing the shape, because a decorator that takes arguments is exactly this pattern with one more layer on top. One consequence that shows up in long-running services: a captured name is a reference, so the object it points at cannot be freed while the inner function is alive. Capture a large data frame, an open connection, or a whole request object for the sake of one field, and you have extended that object's lifetime to match the closures. If the closure is stored in a registry that lives for the life of the process, so is everything it captured. The fix is to capture the small piece you actually need rather than the container it came from. Which brings us to why any of this appears in a decorator series. Look at the structure rather than the purpose. An outer function takes a value, and inner function uses that value without assigning it, and the outer returns the inner. That's the factory pattern from segment 2, and the value being captured happens to be a function. Fn is a free variable of wrapper. Everything you learned about cells applies unchanged, including the fact that each application of the decorator creates its own cell holding its own function. And you can prove it. After decoration, the name add refers to the wrapper, so asking for its free variables reports Fn, and recording the cell hands you the original undecorated function. This is a genuinely useful debugging move when you suspect a decorator is wrapping the wrong thing. There's a cleaner route to the same object once functools wraps is in play, which is the wrapped attribute, and that's the subject of a later video in this series. So the video is about over. Let's recap real quick. Names resolve through local, enclosing, global, and built-in, and that happens when the line runs. A name and inner function reads without assigning is a free variable, and free variables live in cells shared between the 2 functions. That means capture is by variable, not by value, which is exactly why the loop version reports the final number. Non-local is what lets you rebind a captured name, while mutating an object never needed it. And a decorator built from nested functions is simply a closure whose captured value is a function. The inner function shares a container rather than remembering a value. Once all that lands, sinks in, none of this becomes surprising again. If you found that helpful, please subscribe.